Welcome everybody. GSC Invitational Winners Bracket Round 3. So week 4 of the event, and the winners bracket will progress a lot quicker, requiring fewer weeks than the losers bracket will. So round 3 means we're actually close to the end of the winners bracket. And we have FOMG and Starmaster. Just a quick detail. In the last video that I uploaded between Alice and Podgis, the writing on the bottom of this screen said Winners Bracket Round 2. That's a mistake, and you'll have to forgive me for that. But I got a little mixed up. Anyways, FOMG, recent champion of the Callous Crew Battle, and Starmaster, who is, well, a superstar of ADV, really good player, but I have honestly been enjoying Star playing GSC. I've become a bit of a fan, I'm not going to lie. Two really strong players are going to be duking it out now, and they've been kicking lots of strong players' asses in this tournament, and here they are finally meeting up, and we're going to see what happens. And before we begin, just a reminder to subscribe to the channel and, leave a like, because I always appreciate it if we can show, this appreciation for this event. And hopefully down the line, people will also, fall back to this YouTube series, because I think it's a good showcase of what the GSC meta has to offer. So any kind of contribution is much appreciated. So here we go. We got Zap versus Lax lead, the classic duo. FOMG is gonna go for a Thunder on Curse Lax. Curse Lax lead can mean a lot of things. The fact that Starm is going for a Curse as opposed to, say, a Double Edge means he's not necessarily afraid of revealing the Curse, okay? But it could be Curse EQ. Curse EQ is probably better than going for the... it's probably better to go for Curse if you're Curse EQ. If you are Mono Lax, then perhaps as well. But if you are Sleep Talk with no Curse, then obviously you're going to be going for Double Edge. But even if you have Double Edge and you're Curse EQ, you might want to go for Curse. That's what I think, if you're facing a Zapdos. Body Slam, okay, still, makes sense to me. Body Slam could be EQ, could be Mono. I don't think it would be Flamethrower. Cloyster coming in, goes for the Spikes, or Toxic, and will now have to go for Spikes after that Toxic miss. Rather unfortunate. He may risk a Para. No Para. So he can... The Cloyster is definitely going to live, because it's kind of risky to just go for early Boom. As you see the Missy switch in. Gets a Toxic on FOMG's Zapdos. I wouldn't say that FOMG is one to run Whirlwind Zap as commonly as others might do, so I think that's rest. We see that the Misdreavus revealed 2 moves. And so far, FOMG has Spikes, so at least a sort of positional advantage. Starm is going to go for Body Slam again, +1. Deals just about as much as unboosted Double Edge would do to an unboosted Lax. Golem's going to come in here and roar out the Lax, and Chloe comes in as well from Starmaster's end. So it looks like Starmaster doesn't have Mono Lax. And the reason is quite simple, because Body Slam Snorlax, at least depending on the build of your team, Body Slam draws in Skarmory, Curse draws in Skarmory, and if you have Body Slam, you can para it, so that's usually something you want over the damage, which is, the damage difference isn't huge. So Body Slam EQ is the idea, because EQ would draw Skarmory. If you have Body Slam, then you probably wouldn't want Flamethrower because you're not gonna draw in Skarmory, if that makes any sense. And it's more valuable. So, anyways, enough of that. We have a pretty fat team from Starmaster. Blissey plus Lex. Not something you see every day. Not uncommon. And it would make me think that the last is a Skarm. He goes for Heal Bell. What did he heal? He was healing his Snorlax. So, Curse EQ still makes sense with the presence of Heal Bell. Blissey is also going to be your primary Zapdos check, so you don't have to worry too much about Snorlax staying in. The light screen support is going to be very beneficial for Starmaster's Lax, who can pretty freely set up a curse and probably deal a lot of damage to this Golem, as FOMG may attempt to go for Spin. And we've already seen, okay, he decides to Roar instead, which, yeah, in hindsight is probably better. Zapdos threatening the Cloyster, but the Cloyster is Spin. So we won't see a Starmie on this team. Probably Skarmory is going to be the last Mon, as Starmaster reveals to have a, he has a Flamelax check, and all he needs is something that takes care of EQ Lax. So there we go. There's the Skarm. Doubles out. In comes Alakazam, interestingly enough, which is female, and that's not random. It also has Encore. The female can actually be just to throw off the Snorlax, and if he got Encore, he would have trapped the Lax into, say, a curse. Yeah, that was the curse. Usually, Alakazam doesn't have space for Encore and Attract. I could be wrong, but it would be at the cost of some other valuable fourth move. The reason why you have female Alakazam is because in Gen 2, female Pokemon usually have lower attack. Well, they always have lower attack DVs, unless they're female-only pokes, like Blissey or Jinx or something. Now, since Alakazam is a special attacker, it's really not a big deal. But that also keeps the opponent guessing, because it's like, I need to respect Attract, or do I need to respect, as we saw here, Encore? So, good on FOMG to kind of make things ambiguous here. Alakazam has a pretty good matchup versus T-Bolt Zapdos, in my opinion. The Toxic is going to be good, and then eventually the Zapdos may be forced to use Rest, at which point Alakazam can use Encore and then spam the hell out of Psychic until he gets a nice Spadef drop. Or at least that's the idea behind it. Porygon 2. Okay, this is a very interesting core. Porygon 2 is going to fish for a freeze here, and is a pretty reliable curse user, but gets paralyzed, making his matchup a lot harder. And look at that. Would you look at that? 36 turns. I was all hopeful about this game, and FOMG goes for an early forfeit. Kind of uncharacteristic, especially since he has 3 strong Mons. Personally, I may have gone a little bit longer just to attempt to, see if hacks might have come on his side, but it seems Starmaster came with a very good choice, and he's going to get an early Game 1 win. All right, so FOMG is going to have to reverse this situation, win 2 games in a row versus Starmaster, who's been making some very, very good calls in the builder. All right, Game 2. FOMG on the bottom. Nidoking lead, goes for Thief, steals the lefties from none other than Zappy. I think that the Zapdos is Sleep Talk, possibly. And personally, I think stealing leftovers from Zapdos isn't nearly as valuable as from Snorlax, but that can really be up to debate. So we see Thunder and Thief. So possibly no Lovely Kiss. Cloyster comes in. as does the Zap. Starmaster is going to double back, and FOMG is going to double to his Zap so as to... There's a lot to unpack there. Really interesting because they know that, you know, having spikes first can make a huge difference on the opponent. So that's partly why Starmaster knows that Snorlax is like an invitation to bring in one's Cloyster, so he goes to his Zap, which is still safe on the Nido. And FOMG, as a matter of fact, does go to Cloyster. Now, the situation is reversed. FOMG can go to Snorlax, which is a good invitation for Cloyster. So, FOMG calls out Starmaster's call out and goes to Zap. Now, at this point, is the thing going to repeat itself? No. Starmaster goes to his Lax, and FOMG gets his Cloyster. So he ends up victorious in this mini skirmish of positioning. As he will go to T-Tar, and we still don't know if this Snorlax is EQ. So that can be pretty... There it is. That's the +1 EQ as it gets phased out. And next time round, T-Tar most likely won't be able to phase out the Snorlax. So Golem is going to spin away those spikes, and Cloyster gets the early spikes. So FOMG has Hidden Power Electric, which is a near 2-hit KO on the Cloyster. Definitely doesn't want to stay in there, and has Ice Beam as well. So Ice Beam, HP Electric is not something you see every day. In fact, HP Electric is already rare in and of itself. I cannot remember the last time I saw Ice Beam paired alongside it. You know, you got that pseudo Bolt Beam coverage, and it hurt Zapdos a hell of a... Like, it hurt a ton. And it did a hell of a lot. 59%. And I'm not sure how much... Like, if it could do much more than that. But that's a big deal. So, FOMG has his own Lax here. And we're going to see if it's a bluff of a Monolax or not. Boosted crit double edge on the Golem does half. That's incredible. Is Starm going to boom? Yes, he is. FOMG calls out that explosion with his Gengar. And is also going to go for an early T-Bolt on that Starmie. Which he has a good suspicion isn't going to be T-Wave, but something along the lines of Surf Nightmare. So he prefers to take the lefties away from that Starmie, which is pretty interesting. Gengar still very valuable, goes for an early boom, and Starmaster calls out that boom, so two Gengars catching each other's explosions. Very interesting. And we're both down a normal resist. They both have 2. And they both have no lefties on their Zap. So, HP Electric is super effective against Starmie. And with no leftovers, that's going to be tricky. FOMG preferring to go for the early boom on Lax, knowing that he's in a really tough spot right now. So, he's got to make something happen. Goes for the EQ. Zap can rest here. Chooses not to. And Starmaster may be hoping for a revenge kill with the Starmie. He's certainly threatening it. Lax will have to go for rest, and probably Sub Nightmare will follow up. Starm prefers not to go for the sub. And the Starmie at that point was in range. Very, very good management of the HP from FOMG there. Has to take a boom. Not quite in range of double edge since it was at +1. Does not take out the Lax, but at least his Snorlax gets to live, and it will certainly have an advantage against this Curse EQ Lax because it's Sleep Talk. Gengar is going to wall it, however, and FOMG cannot safely bring in T-Tar here, so he's going to have to pull something off somehow. Starmaster is going to spam Ice Punch, as there's really nothing that FOMG can do about it. All of the other Mons there are at worst 2-hit KO'd by Gengar. And now Starmie may attempt some crazy stuff with Sub Nightmare. Starm gonna recover all the HP back, or nearly all of it, and safely go to Gengar. Good call. And Starmaster is gonna have to hope for a freeze at this point because the Snorlax is so far boosted that this situation is kind of tricky. The Gengar can most certainly wall the Snorlax, but his Curse EQ Lax has 2 turns of sleep to burn. And the Gengar can also be stalled out of its PP. So this is kind of interesting as a scenario. All right. Yeah. Of course, if FOMG were to just switch out, what would he switch out to? He doesn't really have much, but he can get a lot of value if he were to take out these other mons. At the same time, though, it feels to me like he really needs to get rid of either Starmie or Snorlax to be able to win with the other 3 pokes he has in the back, Nido, Zap, and T-Tar. If he wants to win with Lax, he's going to have to put in a lot of work. And this Starmie is just losing HP in the process, but also effectively making Snorlax lose PP. So FOMG is going to also attempt to play very ambiguously, so he can use Rest and essentially burn 2 turns without consuming any PP. And Starmaster, in reaction to that, can also switch to another Mon, but he also risks switching in a Mon on a, on a Sleep Talk turn and taking damage. So there's that to keep in mind. For instance, this turn here, nothing. Goes back, consumes 1 PP. So there's going to be a lot of this, a lot of fishing for Ice Punch as well. Hidden Power on the Gengar. So Thief, Ice Punch, Hidden Power. Probably to enable the Starmie. I'm not sure what Hidden Power. Ice Punch. And there it is. So there's the switch on the Sleep Talk turn. So the Starmie goes down. It was a 33% chance of Snorlax actually landing it. I think the odds were in Starmie's favor, but there goes the Starmie. So now FOMG is most certainly in an advantageous spot. And you guys might be wondering, how on earth could Snorlax be in an advantageous spot versus a Gengar which walls it all day? Well, the fact of the matter is that this Snorlax is maxed out in attack and has, well, the option to go for Struggle. So if it uses Struggle, it's going to deal typeless damage to the Gengar, but based off of its attack. Second of all, in Generation 2, Recoil is based off of, well, the damage dealt, and not based off of, it doesn't just indiscriminately deal a quarter HP, like in Gen 5 and onwards. Hence why Starmaster had to go for a gamble, like going to the Starmie there. Ice Punch. He has attempted 16 Ice Punches at this point and not a single freeze. And you have to wonder if the odds are in his favor. Because it seems like it's not, Lady Luck is not on his side. Snorlax goes for a single curse. A second curse. And FOMG is going to deal a good 59 to the Lax at this point, Starmaster cannot stay in with the Lax, even if it were to go for a third curse. And that's very risky. Very risky. It may not have been in their best interest. So I'm going to assume that the last move on the Gengar may be Explosion. So the whole point in switching in and out is to preserve PP. But I don't know if that's going to pay off. FOMG has 7 double edges left, 1 Sleep Talk, 3 rests, and a curse. So the odds of him clicking Sleep Talk must be very low. Starmaster is aware that he has a 1 shot to bring his Lax back in and either bait that Sleep Talk or just rest off his Snorlax. He's going to go to it and goes back. FOMG is not going to take the bait. So at this point, if the Snorlax runs out of Sleep Talk PP, well, it's no longer going to be your... It's not going to be different from a Curse EQ Lax. Like, once it clicks Rest, it's just not going to have anything to use anymore. So FOMG is also spamming Curse, which is a do-nothing move. I promise that the turns will not last too long, as the hidden power is going to be spammed the hell out of. And now Gengar has only 4 moves left, so FOMG is going to do his best to just stall. Oh my, what did we just see there? Alright, so on the very possible last turn, the last chance FOMG has at all of using rest and sleep, he uses it here on turn 115. And then Starmaster goes to the Lax. He has 1 PP of Sleep Talk left, 2 turns to choose it. So it's really a 50-50. And then, at that point, Sleep Talk can go for, well, you know, any of the other 3 moves. And it just happens to land a double edge. At this point, Starmaster really cannot win the game. So, this game goes to FOMG, which was extremely clutch. Really good. Really interesting game, actually. And we're going to move on to Game 3. Game 3, folks. The loser will be sent to the loser's bracket. Umbreon lead versus Snorlax lead. Hopefully we don't have Moonlight Rest this time around. So Starmaster going to his Skarm. So he's bringing a lot of fat teams. Whirlwinding out that Umbreon because of mean look stuff. And FOMG has his trusty old Golem on his side. We see Cloy, Zap, and 3 unrevealeds on Starmaster's end. So goes for a +1 body slam. Mean looks again. Should suggest that the Umbreon may be Charm, as we see a Machamp. Machamp into Zap on the Skarm and dodges a Toxic. Goes for Thunder. So we see Blissey once more. So another fat team, just like before. Could be the same one. Probably Spin Cloy. Possibly even Rest because of Heal Bell. Machamp's going to come in. At +1, it threatens to Oko Skarmory and pretty much everything else with that Cross Chop. Starmaster has to have some sort of Machamp check. And FOMG is going to be scouting for that. Could be Starmie, could be Missy, I think, or Zap, just like last time. There's the Cross Chop, a second of 8 total Cross Chops. Zap coming in on the rest from the Skarmory, so potentially 2 turns of rest are going to have to be burned as long as FOMG manages to position himself and force that Blissey out. He's going to deal some nice chip damage to the Misdreavus with an EQ. Good call out. he knew that, well, EQ would have been rather safe. Zap is going to deal... Well, it can threaten a 2-hit KO on the Misdreavus here with the Thunder. He's going to go for Thunder. And I can only assume that he'll either bring in Lax or Machamp again. Blissey will Heal Bell. There aren't going to be many opportunities. There's a crit. There's a crit on the Skarm. So Machamp is safe to... Sure, go for a 4th cross chop. The PP is quite limited. He may have to set up or, you know, use Curse or Meditate or whatever. There it is. My reminder that at +1, the crit will OHKO, unless, of course, okay, there it is. Skarmory also has Curse. So Curse, Whirlwind, Toxic, and Rest. No attacks on the Skarm. No Sleep Talk. Just stalling and phasing. Not something you see every day. But FOM going for some quite risky plays. Consumed up to, what, 6, 7 cross chops already. And the Machamp is toxic. So this is not looking like it's going to be FOM's game to win here. Unless he can really make something happen with that mean look. He does trap the Misdreavus. Starmaster does not choose to respond with, what's it called, with Mean Look. Goes for Parasong, putting whatever Mon FOM will switch to on a timer with that there. FOM, of course, can switch out here unless Misdreavus goes for Mean Look. Goes for the Luck with the Thunder, but unfortunately misses and gets trapped in the process. So they will both be going down this turn. FOM has no Electric with which to threaten the Skarmory anymore. So how on earth is he going to make this count? He has his Cloyster. He's going to try and defend against Spikes. Hidden Power Electric once more. And yeah, the Cloyster can't stay in, so FOM will go for Hidden Power Electric. All right. Starmaster going for the 50-50. Last chance to go for Spikes. He chooses to gamble. That's fine. T-Bolt Zap. So Skarm Bliss Zap is a good alternative to Raikou Skarm. And FOM is on the offensive. I mean, he can't afford to loosen the reins here at all. As he is going to go to Umbreon. His primary Curse EQ Lax check with possibly Charm. FOM is a little upset in the chat. He says he should have sacked Machamp over Zapdos. But we'll see. He has a Fighting Spirit. He's going to go to his Golem. Rapid spins away those Spikes. And they're gone for good. But now this Golem is put on a timer. Every time it's going to come in, it's going to take some damage. So no Lefties recovery anymore. Unless, of course, it gets whirlwinded in. But that's another story. Snorlax gets crit T-bolted. Lucky that was not a Thunder. It is Sleep Talk. Sleep Talk like EQ or maybe Flamethrower. Because this team is rather weak to Jinx. The Umbreon's going to BP. Goes to Cloyster. Speed ties with Skarmory. But no, he's not going to get the Spikes on the field just yet. He doesn't want that Cloy to be poisoned. So, he's going to play around. Go to the Snorlax of all things. He considers it to be safe. He's not going to try and push through this Skarmory. He doesn't have Curse. He doesn't have a setup or any physical Mon to even really break through in the first place. So he's just going to stay in. And the Skarmory is just using Curse, Whirlwind, Rest, and Toxic. It's not going to hurt anything for staying in. So Umbreon comes in and may BP here. Goes for Charm. Goes for Charm on the Lax. Switches out, so no BP this time. And the whole idea with BP is that you get to act after someone switches. So you get to effectively pivot Skarm taking a crit DE. Another crit, 2 crits in a row, and even a third one won't be enough to take out this Skarm. However, Cloyster is in the fray, and with that, HP Electric can almost certainly threaten the Skarm. Machamp has an opportunity here, goes for Rock Slide. He has 1 Cross Chop left. No Rest Talk. Cloy comes in and spikes? Yes. Alright. Snorlax. Umbreon. Umbreon, is it getting parried? Yes, it is. It gets parried. Uh-oh. That can be trouble. But at the very least, FOMG is safe to come in here. Will never take any Spikes damage because he managed to get rid of that threat. I think if Spikes were down for good, then FOMG would certainly have lost. But no, he still has a fighting chance here. He can consume PP, he can position himself. And if he still has Ice Beam on the Cloyster, then hey, he could fish for a freeze. Snorlax. Umbreon. Mean look, but nothing to really force out. Skarmory has limited Whirlwind PP, 22. The Snorlax comes in. Mind you, with no pressure in GSC, no abilities, there's nothing that's making the PP go away any faster. You really have to just play out every single turn. And FOMG is going to go for a double edge on that on the Zapdos rather. And I think this is kind of risky because a critical hit will really bite Starmaster in the behind. He's really, really trying to get the Lax to consume all of that double-edged PP because that looks like the only win con at this point. Of course, if there were a flamethrower, I would assume that maybe FOMG would have revealed it at this point. Possibly. Could be wrong. Cloyster pivots back out and wastes 1 Toxic from the Skarm. That means there are 8 Toxics left. And I think it's safe to put things on fast. There's a double edge. Another. Snorlax has 15 double edges left. And Skarmory has 7 Toxics left. Umbreon just going to go for a mean look. Not sure if that's beneficial, but FOMG at the very least has 2 explosions. The Zap, the Skarm, the Zap again. The Zap is getting HP back. Skarm is losing a little bit, but it really hardly matters. 14 double-edge PP, and we see an Earthquake reveal. Machamp gets Whirlwinded in, gains HP back. Skarmory goes for Cursed, and there is less and less Whirlwind going on. And what I mean with that is that Whirlwind is running out of PP. It is exactly at half. Zapdos is tanking these hits quite well, but it won't be able to do it forever. And this is kind of risky. But Starmaster seems to have at least a timer on most of these Mons because of Toxic and all that. Umbreon, on the other hand, well, Umbreon can... okay, the Golem comes in on this turn, interestingly enough, and will be phasing out the Snorlax, and the Snorlax reveals to have EQ. Golem is further risking its life. With the Para on Umbreon, it can't get Toxic, so it's safe to come in. Cloyster gets an Ice Beam, so reveals to have Ice Beam. Very safe move. Can even go for a freeze. So that can be a big deal. And as we saw in the previous game, Game 1, Cloyster's Ice Beam dealt so much damage. And Hidden Power Electric dealing just about the same. Mind you, there is a speed tie there. So this Cloister is looking rather threatening. Blissey comes in. Safe on Toxic. Or there's no Toxic, so it's safe, is what I meant to say. No Freeze, goes for Heal Bell. Now the Skarmory is back at full, and Zapdos doesn't have to use Rest or Sleep Talk. Snorlax comes in on a Flamethrower. Zap versus Lax. And we see the Sleep Talk there. Another gets EQ on Starmaster's Lax. Okay. Let's speed things up a little more. We're actually going to be putting this on hyper fast. Umbreon takes a T-Bolt. Another double edge. There's 9 double edges left. 8 double edges. 7. 6. This is kind of risky. And there's a crit on the Blissey. Oh my. Okay, with 5 double edges left, dudes. Can Starmaster stall out the remainder of attacks here and win? This is looking rather rough. How much did that do? Okay. Yeah, 45. There's the Sleep Talks as well to keep in mind. Yeah, that's, yeah, probably a better call. Okay. Golem gets Whirlwinded in. Gonna recover HP. Umbreon comes in. Zap. EQ. Mind you, FOMG has 2 explosions, so that can go a really long way in this game. An extremely long way, in fact. Lax is parried. FOMG is going to recover right away. Goes to Umbreon. No funny business this time. Threatens a Charm, and in fact, does manage to pull it off, but it was on Skarm, so it didn't really amount to much. Lax has 10 Sleep Talk PP left. The Zapdos on Starmaster's end is still quite healthy. Machamp. Curse. Rock Slide? No, just switches out. Lax gets crit. Is safe. As there is a... Oh, okay. Okay. Alright, gets a Charm. Never mind. I was about to say that this turn could have been crucial because the Umbreon could have full parried. But nope. Umbreon manages to charm the Lax. Again, a lot of spamming. EQ. It's the most expendable of moves there. A lot of switching. It's hard to keep up. A lot of it. Like a lot. Hidden Power from the Zap. Hidden Power again. 15 of them. Even more than 15 have been used. Just about every mon has used more than half of their PP. Besides this Lax. But Starmaster's not catching a break here. If he can break through the Umbreon, it's nearly game. It's really good for Starm. He needs to break through one mon and open this thing up entirely. But nothing. No full para. I might have gone for it. Whatever. Okay. How many Toxics are left? 6 Toxics. Starmaster has 2 flying types, so he can infinitely switch between them without any mon losing HP in the process. So despite the spikes being on that side, they're not really doing too much right now anymore. And the Snorlax still has 4 double edges. Gets a double edge on that Sleep Talk. Forces the Lax to use Rest. brings in Cloy, gets an Ice Beam on the Skarm, gets another on the Zapdos. Uh-oh. Lax comes in. Skarmory not in range of crit. Cloy comes back and can threaten the Skarm. Also with a Boom. Can threaten anything with a Boom. Ice Beam leaving Zapdos by the skin of its beak at 1%. Rests back up. Full Para Umbreon, so no mean look shenanigans, unfortunately, for Fong. That was a pretty bad turn to full Para. Cloyster, because he could have trapped the Zap and might have won. Cloy. Zap. Zap using Sleep Talk. Rest. Double Edge Crit. Double Edge Crit on the Zap. Another Sleep Talk. And the Zap goes down. That is super unlucky. Super unlucky. Explosion on the Skarm, and there it is. Fom clutches out game 3. I don't know if the second or third game was more fortunate, but still, you know, coming the way of a really strong player, so it wasn't like, you know, he wasn't being rewarded for playing badly. Damn, that was something. That was something to see. Okay, then. Ladies and gentlemen, Fom will be moving on to the winner's bracket round 4, which I believe is the winner's semis, I think, or quarters. I could be wrong. In any case, I hope you guys enjoyed, and consider subscribing. And goodbye.